What if I told you that there was once a Pontiac that could give the almighty Corvette a run for its money? A car so powerful, so raw, that it rivaled even the mighty ZR1? Buckle up, car enthusiasts, because today we're diving into the legend of the Pontiac Firehawk. Welcome back to Motor Monarch. Today, we're turning back the clock to the early 90s, when the rivalry between Pontiac and Chevrolet was the stuff of legends. Pontiac was the cool, fast, and fun sibling in the General Motors family, the Jaeger bomb to Chevy's Coors Light. But there was one unbreakable rule at General Motors. Nothing could be faster than the sacred Corvette. Well, Pontiac had other ideas. Now, Pontiac, being the rebellious muscle car fathers they were, never really liked that rule. They always tried to push the envelope with their Trans Ams. In 1991, with the end of the third-gen platform on the horizon, Pontiac commissioned a special limited production Firebird to dethrone the Corvette. We're talking about a crazy-built V8, a very stout suspension setup, and a peak horsepower figure that rivaled even the mighty ZR1. The official name for this beast was the SLP Formula Firehawk. SLP stood for Street Legal Performance, a performance parts manufacturer owned and founded by Ed Hamburger. Ed was a real gearhead and a serial entrepreneur within the performance automotive space. He got his start with Mopars, then parlayed that success into Hamburger's Oil Pans, a leading oil pan manufacturer. After selling both companies, he started SLP in the late 1980s. SLP burst onto the scene with offerings specifically for the General Motors product line, focusing on the third-gen Camaro and Firebird platforms. These were General Motors' first departure into that 80s era of wedge styling. According to the company's official history, SLP were the first to introduce a 50-state emissions legal performance package for these cars that not only increased performance, but also improved overall fuel economy. This was no easy feat. In the late 80s, a stock V8 Firebird was barely making over 200 horsepower, so any performance increase was very welcome. The SLP package included a full exhaust with headers, a revised intake system, and a remapped tune, resulting in a monstrous 50 horsepower gain over stock. Pontiac saw the magic SLP was working and figured if they could offer a special order, ultra-high performance Firebird that was faster than it had any business being, it would improve public perception of the brand and show Pontiac's commitment to performance. SLP went to work engineering and prototyping these cars, with access to General Motors, proving grounds to perfect what would become the Firehawk. These cars would be sold through a network of dealers as special order Firebirds, available from a dealership with a warranty. Interestingly, these Firehawks weren't featured in any official Pontiac adverts because they were sold as dealer partnerships, not technically on behalf of the manufacturer, kind of similar to how Baldwin Motion sold their cars. By 1991, SLP's R&D was done, and they were ready to bring their creation to market. The Firehawk was positioned as the ultimate performance offering from Pontiac, which meant it came with an ultimate performance price tag, $40,000 or $51,988 with options, double the price of the top dog Trans Am GTA. So what made the Pontiac Firehawk worth all this money? All these Firehawks were built off red Firebird formulas that served as the donor car. The 350 cubic inch GM L98 small block was still used as the base, but it received a new set of ported heads, lightweight pistons, a forged crank, new connecting rods, a new intake, and a full free-flowing exhaust system. All of this internal engine work paid off in dividends. While a stock L98 would have made probably around 235 horsepower, the Firehawks made a whopping 360 horsepower and nearly 400 foot-pounds of torque. The Firehawk's performance goodies didn't stop there. Gone was the automatic slush box that sat behind the 350 Firebird, replaced by the 6-speed manual transmission from a C4 Corvette. Note, you couldn't even get a 350 in a third gen with a manual at all from the factory, so this was a big deal. The Firehawk also received an aluminum drive shaft, a Dana 44 rear end, and even new axles to help handle the added brunt of this new SLP-built engine. With a curb weight of 3,400 pounds, the Firehawk could rip off an impressive 0-60 time of just 4.6 seconds, run a low 13-second quarter-mile time, and top out at about 160 miles per hour. These were base C4 Corvette killing numbers, putting the Firehawk performance-wise in a very similar class as the almighty C4 ZR1 and even some other more exotic cars of the time. For the top-trimmed Firehawk, that extra $10,000 plus got you a set of 4-piston brake calipers lifted directly off the Ferrari F40, a new lightweight aluminum hood, a Recaro driving seat, racing harnesses, a roll bar, and some other trick parts to get your Firehawk track ready. The 275 size tires at all 4 corners of the Firehawk helped dramatically improve mechanical grip over the stock tires, but they did make it more jittery on public roads and over potholes and cracks. According to period testing from publications including Car and Driver and Motor Week, the Firehawk was a rather jarring experience to drive. It was visceral, raw, and in terms of ride quality or interior refinement, well, it just wasn't really there. But that wasn't what people were purchasing the Firehawk for. They bought this car to get themselves truly the only turnkey old-school type hot rod you could buy at the time. Partially because this was an SLP product sold by Pontiac dealers, it let them skate through certain regulations and tests when building the Firehawk, like the EPA's 50,000-mile emissions test. Now, here's where things get really interesting. Despite its impressive performance, the Firehawk faced some challenges. With a $40,000 to $50,000 price tag, it was really close to Corvette ZR1 prices. The ZR1 was amazing for the period and generally a more livable car, even though it had 2 fewer seats. This is probably part of the reason you haven't heard of the Firehawk until right now. The Firehawk's timing was also a bit off. Coming out in 1991 to 1992, this was around the time that the 3rd gen platform was showing its age. Everyone knew that underneath, these were still the same core car as the earliest 1982 Firebirds, just with some upgrades. No matter what happened, that translated to poor sales throughout the entire Firebird reign. People were losing the spark for the 3rd gen platform, so a super expensive version of it, while still fast, was just an aging platform for a lot of people. Plus, the ZR1 Corvette was setting the world on fire at this point, and definitely attracted more attention and purchases, mainly due to its availability as a GM-specific product, not just a dealer special order. There was just more marketing behind the ZR1. By the time the 4th gen Firebird was introduced in 1993, just about 25 or so SLP Firehawks were built on the 3rd gen platform, making them incredibly rare. There were initial plans for SLP to build 250 cars, but that just never came to fruition. All of the Firehawks were supposed to be painted in bright red, but it turns out a handful of the 25 cars got different colors, with one of them even being green. While for a lot of people, the 3rd gen Firebirds are like the red-headed stepchild of the Firebird line, I happen to love the lines of the 3rd gens. Values for clean 3rd gens across the board are rapidly climbing, and with so few comparable sales out there, it's hard to gauge what the value of a Firehawk truly is now. But they trade hands so seldom that it probably doesn't even matter. Thankfully, that wasn't the end of the Firehawk. SLP would get a resurgence and be able to do a lot more with the Firehawk name in 1993 with the 4th gen platform, but that's a topic for a whole separate video. So, what do you think of the Pontiac Firehawk? A misunderstood masterpiece or an overpowered oddity? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to this channel for more deep dives into the world's rarest and most interesting cars. Until next time, see ya!